there and welcome to this week's Breathing Room. My name is Laura Chattington, and your team isn't struggling to find information in your organization. They're struggling to process it if they're anything like most companies across 5 different sources, 4 different committees, and they're doing that every single month, if not every couple of weeks. Now, every board or committee paper your organization produces took longer than it should have, not because your team isn't good at their job, but because the evidence lives in like 5 different places, and finding it, cross-referencing it, making it tell a coherent story that's all manually done. And then the committees need the same information, slightly reframed, slightly different focus, and they all need that by Friday. So everybody does it again and again, repeating the same work. So today we're going to be talking about time drain and why better templates doesn't fix it, and what that actually looks like when AI is properly embedded into how this government's process works. My name is Laura Chattington. I work with organizations to help them embed AI into their work streams so that they can get value back, save their time, and fully leverage AI to scale what they're doing. And I'm here with Tara Lee, who has 20 years experience across health and social care and the third sector, and has a background in commissioning over £500 million and a focus on driving transformation programs and delivering tangible results. So that's what we're here to talk about today, which is like, again, I love this breathing room lens because it's about like simplicity in technology, but massive return in people's weeks and time and everything. And Tara Lee, maybe you could start talking a bit about kind of what is the challenge here? You know, what is this kind of this governance structure, reporting, committee papers, process? What is the challenge?
Well, it's an absolute necessary evil, isn't it? In terms of any organization that we work with, we've got to have good, solid governance and assurance around how our organization is working, how we're delivering, the results we're achieving or not, and any areas that we might need to focus in on, our financial positions, all of those sort of good things. So the issue we have, though, as we've sort of rightly said there in that really comprehensive intro, Laura, is quite often these papers take up such significant amounts of multiple people's times in producing them. So it's not even just that the information is in different places. We quite often need different individuals' particular skill set and specialist focus in order to also contribute to an overarching and triangulated paper. So, it's the finding the data for organizations that might be in multiple different places, multiple formats. Some of it might be numerical, so it might be numbers. Some of it might be narrative and assurance in terms of narrative. Some of it might be case studies, particularly in our health and social care organizations, because we do like to ensure that we make sure that our governance is also embedded in our experience of our patients and our service users. So it's not just a case of finding the data, it's triangulating the data, cross-referencing the data, making sure that all of our data and our narrative tells the same story, so we haven't got inconsistencies or areas of error that we might need to delve or dig a bit deeper into. And then we have to find a format that not only works for us and makes sense to us. And I know you and I, Laura, have lots of chats about this because we come from very different spheres.
And we're both smiling because I don't understand any of it, and it's all gobbledygook to me. But actually, the terminology that just making sure it's accessible to everybody. But you're describing is absolutely right. Yeah,
this is it. So we then have to make sure the format works for whatever audience it is that we're tailoring our particular paper for. So typical. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, and it isn't just. I know we're from totally different places and sectors, and lots of terminology that you use that I'm just like, what, huh? and I'm sure vice versa. But actually,
Yeah.
when within the organization that anyone's working in, it is also like different people need different versions of it. So the leadership team needs a different version, the legal and compliance team need a whole different version, the management teams need, production teams, all different people within the organization need different bits of the information in a different way, in a different lens, in a different format, and all of that stuff, right?
And a majority of the time that happens manually.
Yeah. Oh, it
So,
makes me want to I'm just like, oh, makes me like, that's what I think.
we're
Yeah.
manually pulling the data, we're
Yeah.
manually triangulating the data, we're manually building our narratives. And this is a process that happens, as you said, very, very well in that intro. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's, it can be weekly in some cases, depending on what it is that we're doing, quarterly, etc. And this is a cycle that goes on like this.
On
And
and on
this,
and on.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a huge amount of opportunity here in terms of how AI can help us to pull all of that information together at speed, enabling then our teams then to focus in on ensuring the accuracy of the information,
Yeah.
making sure that the story is coherent and
Mm.
actually reflects where we know things might be in our organization, and also enables us to pick up on some of those inconsistencies that might be there, that perhaps without that level of bringing together of all of that information, we may not always see when we're reliant on a manual process.
Yeah, and actually, how I like KPIs
You
and
love a KPI. Yeah.
measuring the value of AI. I was talking to someone this morning, and just on not even at this kind of level of detail, but just on sort of processing that repetitive papers for committees and board meetings. And she was sharing with me that it would normally take her a week to go through and process it, and I was just like, oh. And it's not that she couldn't do it, it's that actually it just, like, it seems such a waste of time that you do that manually when technology. And she was saying, before I was using AI to do this, it was taking me a week, and now I use AI, it takes me 2 or 3 hours. And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Incredible.
how could you, as I said, it makes me sob and cry that why wouldn't you use AI to do this? So there are the challenge is there, and it's very present for many people who are in big organizations, whether they're committees, boards, all sorts of different papers, and information needs to be circulated to lots of different people in different formats. And as you were saying, the errors come through naturally because we're only human.
Yep.
And just the time drain is just makes tears come to your eyes, and you want
Completely.
to really be able to really leverage AI to do that. So when in your questions, what you started talking about, sort of how can AI help this process, which is blindingly obvious to me, but maybe it isn't so obvious to people watching this, and people who probably just haven't thought about it. And I obviously think, we think about AI, but AI. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, like, if it and obviously it's technical, but like the concept of what you're doing here with AI. So when you plug AI into this kind of committee paper, board paper, like reporting series of workflow that you do, what does AI is going to speed it up, right, a gazillion times faster. I mean, you couldn't compete, right? I mean, it's like, I don't even know what the numbers would be, but it's like, if it takes you a week, AI can do it in a couple of hours. Well, it wouldn't even take AI to do that, but you know what I mean? It's like night and day difference.
Yeah. And it pulls from multiple different sources, multiple different formats. Everything from narrative to data, performance reports, incidents, quality papers. So the AI not only can pull the data and do a really great job of triangulating that information across all of those multiple information sources, But what
Yeah.
it can do as well, which is a real added value, isn't it? And again, this is something that sometimes we can't, or well, we can do it as humans, but it takes a very long time, is it identifies those patterns
Yeah.
really early. It brings those to the fore really quickly
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
surfaces any of those inconsistencies that we've talked about,
Mm.
both in terms of the information or the data sets that we might be working with,
Mm.
or where our narrative doesn't necessarily align with what our data is saying. So
Mm.
that in itself, again, it brings a robustness through in
The
terms of
reporting.
our
Yeah.
report writing. Yeah, absolutely. And our paper delivery,
Yeah.
which is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and you wouldn't get that. You just wouldn't get that in it just in a manual process. And I think
No.
so. It is about saving time, but like masses amount of time. But it's also about like just the data diligence that you can do, and the AI tools that can do that, and also being able to format and share that information efficiently, quickly, and across lots of different people and different profiles so that they get exactly what they want.
And
And
different forums. Yeah.
yeah, making sure it all joins up. And that's
Yeah.
something that AI can do very, very easily for any process like that you have in your organization, for sure. The technology is really simple. It's like it's just plugging it into that workflow. So if you're not doing that already and you don't know how to do that, then drop us a line. If you are thinking about doing that, and maybe that's probably one of the first places that you can start with AI, if you're just getting your hands into using AI, that is a really, really good
Quick
breathing
win.
room strategy that's going to give you value back very quickly, and you can see the results and really start compounding that value across the organization. So go and test it out. If you need help, come and talk to us, and we will see you next week at the breathing room. And yeah.